The Hog Sty is brought to you by TicketClub.com, your one-stop shop for live events nationwide. Whether you're looking for game, theater, or live performance tickets, don't sweat it. TicketClub.com has you covered. So make sure you're going there for all your live entertainment needs, and make sure you're clicking over to them from the banner at the top of thehogsty.com. Welcome to the Hog Sty, DC's unofficial leading Redskins news source for men, women, heathens, fishermen, and nannies.
And
brought
dragons.
to you by Ticket Club and dragons.
And dragons.
Brought to you by TicketClub.com. Of course, my name's Sean Conti. I've got Jamal Forrest, Steve Thomas, and Alex Zeese all here with me today. How are you gentlemen doing on this wonderful Saturday?
I'm doing fantastic. The sun just came out after it's been raining for like a day and a half, so that's good. And I, was working my yard and drove a rusty nail through my hand, so that was awesome.
Do we really want a heathen on the show? I mean, I don't know if we want to invite heathens.
We have a heathen on the show.
Look, it's a reason why. It's a reason why I named it. Yeah, that's what I want to know. Who's the heathen?
I'm pretty sure I would classify.
Look,
We'll leave it to the listeners to decide.
Alex, you are not a heathen, man. There is no heathens.
Well,
on
it
this
depends
show.
on who you ask.
However, we do invite heathens and dragons to listen to us. There's a reason why I mentioned dragons because Game of Thrones starts tomorrow, and that's the best show that any person on this earth could have asked for.
We all waiting
And
for
if
that.
you ask me how I'm doing, that's all I thought about this whole week. God is good, and so is Game of Thrones.
You made it, though, Jamal. You only have another day. And by the time people listen to this, we will have seen episode 1 of season 8 already.
Now, episode 1 is like the only one that's only an hour, right? Like after this, they'll become like...
No, 2 of them are an hour. Episode 1 and 2 are both an hour, and then
they get to like 2.5 hours by the end or something?
No. Then the rest of them are
It's
all
ridiculous,
an hour and
though.
20 minutes each. 3
Oh,
6
okay.
are an hour and 20 minutes.
Gotcha.
Well, that is unfortunate that we have 2 back-to-back weeks of hour-long shows.
Yeah.
We could have broke it up a little bit better than that. But look at me, I'm already complaining. I just want Game of Thrones to be great. That's all.
I think I told you guys last week that I read an entire... Did I tell you this? I read
Yeah,
a
you
detailed
said.
outline of episode 1. Yeah.
I was going to ask you if you've continued that and
Well,
ruined the rest of the season.
well, no,
for yourself.
because the guy who did it is Spanish. Is the guy from Spain, and he does these videos in Spanish, and then somebody translates it. But he apparently got threatened with a lawsuit by HBO over these
that'll
things,
happen.
and so he elected to not continue to do it for future episodes. So I can't ruin it. For
So he
myself.
only did it for the one episode.
Yeah, well, he did it apparently for all of season 7 every week, and I didn't know that. I didn't read any of them back then, but so he was continuing that until HBO shut him down.
I've been actually out of my way. I haven't even watched any of the previews or anything they put out. I want to just come into it,
Well, let me tell you how it's going to
clean-headed.
end. Now, here's
Yeah.
what the end
I know how it's going to end, actually, just because I've read the books and I figured
haven't
that
read
out
the
pretty
book
easy.
because the
Hold
books
up.
are not even out.
No. But the books they've written kind of give you enough foreshadowing to figure it out.
Okay, well, tell us. What's your guess?
Well,
Yeah, I want to know.
I have a guess.
This is
too.
just a guess. This is not a spoiler, people. We're just
No.
guessing.
All right, so my guess is I think it's obvious Jon and Daenerys win. They end up having a child. The book is actually written from the point of view of Sam, Jon's BFF, and that's why it's got the artful, title and all that. Because at one point he's always like, books. No, A Song of Ice and Fire.
Song of Ice and Fire.
Right. He's always saying that books are boring. They need better titles and they need to be more artfully written. So it's all written by him.
I could see that.
Yeah.
So clearly,
Writers-
And
clearly
Cersei's killed
Sam
by her
survived.
brother.
What's that, Jamal?
I said so. Clearly, Sam survived long enough to write the book.
Right.
So we know
So
he's
Sam survives,
somewhere near
Jon
the
and Daenerys survive, and I'm pretty sure that Jaime kills Cersei.
Now that I can see.
Okay.
And I think Arya survives because I've heard that that's George R. R. Martin's wife's favorite character.
Yeah. I think he actually had her written out at one point. She told him to write her back in.
Well, actually, I don't want to say this because that could be a spoiler. But he wrote. There was years ago, his original outline for the entire series that he sent to his publisher got leaked, and it's drastically changed from how the books went, but nonetheless, that could be a spoiler, so I won't talk about that.
So
Sure.
I think it's not impossible to think that George R. R. Martin's original vision had the Night King killing everybody and then him ending up ruling a land of zombies. I think that's entirely possible.
I'm not gonna lie. As much as I love these characters, I would have loved, just because I've got so accustomed to how things work in Game of Thrones, I would have loved to see that type of scenario play out.
I'd hate it personally. I think that's too cynical.
It can't end on a downer.
It can because it's George R. R. Martin.
I'm about to say, yeah, it can. But that's why I was like, it's a scenario that I wouldn't mind knowing how this show works. I wouldn't mind watching it play out like that. I'm just so open to it, and it's like the way they do things works. But I personally, before we even, because I know Sean had a theory too, and I don't want him to get drowned. I want to hear his theory too.
Oh, well, prepare to be underwhelmed. But I think everybody dies, and then in the final moments through the lifting fog, Bruce Allen and Dan Snyder emerge.
Oh, man.
with the Valerian steel dagger, and Bruce Allen is the one to take out the Night King. That's what you're saying.
Well, he stabs everybody in the back.
In all honesty, here's what I actually think is going to happen. And this is not based on anything, because I have not. I told you guys, I haven't read the ending, so I don't know what it is. So I'm just guessing. I think basically everybody's going to die. And a handful of people at the end somehow is going to kill the Night King somehow, one way or another. And then it's going to be basically, a handful of people left are going to be the survivors.
That
and
starts
it's like
life
some
over
sort of
again.
it's like some sort of like post-apocalyptic fantasy version of a post-apocalyptic scenario. That's what's the ending. That's what I think the real ending is going to be, in all seriousness. And that's going to be a horrible ending, and I won't like it, and I'll hate it, and I'm going to complain on this show 7 weeks from today.
The problem is there's almost no good way to end it now, Steve. That's the problem they have. It's like you're going to annoy or disappoint a huge amount of people, no matter who you choose to kind of give the throne to.
Right.
And if you give it to nobody, it's going to be even worse.
Yeah, I was thinking of that because, think of all the quote unquote great shows that have existed, recently and over the past couple decades. There hasn't been one clear cut sense of approval from the consensus that they approved the way the show ended.
You know what the one I can think of, Jamal? This is before your time, but MASH. MASH ended in a way that everybody loved it, and it was still the highest rating non-sporting event in television.
Yeah, MASH definitely did it. One that might not be on a lot of people's radar, but Parks and Rec, which ended a couple years ago, that ending was also very well received.
I've never seen that show.
I'm about to say, was that a great TV show? I don't know. I'm really asking. I don't know.
I would say it's up there in terms of it was what?
Popcorn.
It had 9 seasons. It was a strong run on NBC.
I mean, I'm not a Breaking Bad fan, but I've heard that show ended well. I've never seen
Breaking
it.
Bad
was
really good.
Like The Sopranos, a lot of people
good.
hated the way The Sopranos ended, so that's not good.
Yeah, hated The Sopranos. Mad Men, not popular.
Was a horrible ending.
Oh yeah, Seinfeld's an all-time low. Yeah. Friends too. Friends that whole final season. Everyone's like, why don't they just end it?
I don't remember how Friends even ended.
Exactly, no one does.
Yeah, that's a good call with Breaking Bad, though. That's a good comparison too, because it's a
phenom show.
Yeah, it's a very popular show. It was very well written, and it foreshadowed a lot. I was good.
Now, the big thing about Game of Thrones, though, is going to be the fact that the spin-off sequel show is already underway.
Yeah, they said it's supposed to start next year, I believe.
Is that a prequel?
It's technically a prequel.
It's apparently going back thousands of years.
It's going back to the whole Fist of the First Men, the original battle, which I don't know if that's a smart move because, we've already seen people fighting ice zombies. What else do we need about people fighting ice zombies?
We know how this is going to go.
Right. Exactly.
That's the problem with all prequels.
Yeah.
All right. Well, should we put the TV shows aside and try to get some Redskins stuff?
We can.
Yeah. We
do
can.
Our jobs here?
We can try.
Okay. Well, we'll try. Well, we at least have one bit of news before we have to talk about our user poll and our typical draft stuff, so we can at least talk about that. This is exciting. Guys, we had some movement on the Reuben Foster stuff. He's not going to be banned by the NFL. So, Steve, I'm going to actually turn this to you, our legal consultant here. Can you tell me what's going on?
Yeah, okay. So, this past week, on Friday, which for you guys listening was 3 days ago, the NFL released their results of the whole Reuben Foster thing, and what they have done is they have fined him 2 game checks, but they have not suspended him. And what the NFL concluded was that there was not evidence to support the allegation that he violated the player conduct policy. And so the fine was for sort of a ubiquitous, nebulous, because you've been kind of a bad guy for these past 2 years. Apparently, and the source for this, I hate Mike Florio because I think he's a nitwit, but Mike Florio's column on Pro Football Talk talks about, and this is dated April 13th, discusses what the NFL found. Apparently, the reason why they could not find evidence of a violation of player conduct policy is that the woman did not cooperate, and the woman refused to talk to NFL investigators. The specific quote, it says, quote, multiple attempts to contact the accuser were unsuccessful. And so that's why they could not find evidence. What I've been telling everybody for months is that if they dig into this, there is evidence because there was a confrontation of some type. We just don't know what happened. And the woman, whether Foster paid her, who knows what happened, who knows what her motivation is, but she did not cooperate, and that's why they didn't find evidence. So for those of you out there who think Reuben Foster is a saint in football garb and he's just a great guy who's been wrongfully accused, that's probably wrong. But the bottom line is the Redskins just got their new starting middle linebacker, their inside linebacker.
Yes.
How did this start with the female that accused him? Did she go to the police herself first, or did this leak out? Okay,
well, which time? Because there were multiple instances.
The very first.
There's been 3 incidents, and the bottom line is for 2 of them the charges were dropped. The DA in Tampa, Florida, for this last one said that there was not evidence to support the legal standard for criminal conduct, which is beyond a reasonable doubt. And it's probably because, the woman, for whatever reason, I'm just guessing about Reuben Foster paying her. I have no idea whether that's just complete speculation.
Well, I was going to ask you as an attorney if that's what usually happens when someone who goes.
Well, I'm not talking
goes
about
to the cops in the first place.
Yes, but I'm not talking about Reuben Foster being smart enough to get like a confidentiality agreement. I'm talking about.
Right.
He's just going to go, hey, baby, here's a couple $1,000, which is what she wanted in the first place. Because make no mistake, she's scum too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
So here's a fat sack of cash. Don't say anything.
We don't know what the motivation was, like you
said. For those of you out there, before you criticize me, I'm not even accusing him of that. I'm just saying that seems rational, as a rational reason as to why she would not talk to the NFL. Because if she was truly an abused woman and she really wanted to get away from him, all that blah, 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 she would open up and talk to the NFL. But this is a gold-digging harpy here who is clear. Foster may be a bad guy, okay? He's certainly not a saint.
There could be abuse, but...
Yeah, but this woman clearly is more interested in her own pocketbooks than anything else.
Yeah. So, I think that's likely what the situation is.
It's all money one way or another.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And, I guess, he gets off... more or less scot-free. 2 game checks is probably more than most of us make in a year for him, but...
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, but still, you're not suspended. So he's got that going for him. I would just say he's got to keep, don't take it as a win. Take it as a, hey, keep this chick 1,000 miles away from you.
He's not smart enough
maybe
to do
keep
that,
women
Alex.
out of your life for a while. In general, just be on the safe side.
He's never been smart enough to do that.
Or at least keep that woman away from you.
That one for sure. But until you can clean up your act, you don't, just keep the women and the guns away from him because he's also got that gun charge.
Well, yeah, that's gone. That's
it got pled down or something,
right?
Right?
Pled down. It's resolved. There's not an outstanding weapons charge on him.
Right, but you don't want to have a repeat of either of these or really anything.
This, though, Alex. I mean, he's continually let this woman back in his life. He should have gotten rid of her after the first incident.
Right.
Well, let's
I feel
hope
like I need to have a
change
beer
of
with him.
scenery helps him because there's no telling what how much friends impact his life.
Look, I'm going to predict. I'm going to predict now that I'll give it 2 years, and then I'm going to predict that something's going to happen. The Redskins are eventually going to get tired of him, and they're going to cut him. I think that's how this is going to end.
Well, I think the odds are probably in your favor, but at the same time,
I hope it's not.
We saw guys like Hall come in. He was a problem. And
never had this kind of problem. Hall's problem was he was an egomaniac.
Right.
He didn't ever.
But we've seen
trouble.
Again more egomaniac thing. Deshaun Jackson came in, no problems once he got here. Like, guys can change, guys do mature, so I give everyone a little bit of that. But
Deshaun Jackson isn't a good example either, though. The issue with Deshaun was that he had gang ties allegedly, and it turns out that he might have in his past or whatever, but it never.
But he also had conflicts as a player with other players. You know, like
it wasn't beating women though.
No, none of it's that bad. I'm just saying. Hopefully Foster can mature, but
I hope
I'm
wrong.
with you in the end.
Yeah, I hope I'm wrong. I just don't,
Odds are not in his favor.
Yeah, exactly. Odds aren't in his favor.
How productive will those 2 years be that he's here, Steve? That's the real question.
One, I think if there's one thing the Redskins have proven they don't care about, it's your personal conduct and your morality if you can play. If any team in the league has proved that, it's the Redskins.
It's
right.
the Redskins.
And maybe
keep out of One Loudon because everyone just gets in fights in One Loudon.
Yeah, keep out of there. And, the Redskins will probably send him a few cheerleaders, to take care of him if he acts, if things get bad for him. They're known to do that, too.
Yeah, they certainly are.
So I'll set the over and under. Are you going to bet this? If I'm a house in Vegas and I set the line for Reuben Foster's time with the Redskins at 2 years, do you take the bet? Do you take the over or do you take the under?
Now, is it 2 years that he's with the Redskins or 2 years till he gets in legal trouble?
2 years till he's not a Redskin anymore.
Okay.
I'll take the over.
I'd take the over on the Redskins. Legal trouble, I'd take the under, but over on the Redskins.
I like that answer. I think I'm with Alex.
Okay, you guys all think he's going to last?
He'll get a speeding ticket or something at least,
Yeah, I think he'll last.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Give me the over.
It sounds like I picked the right number for the over and under. Then.
You gotta
two's a good number actually for it.
You gotta bet big.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, anything else about Reuben Foster? I mean, how are you feeling? I think it sounds like in terms of his playing ability or potential there, we're feeling pretty positive about it.
I think he starts day one.
Yeah. Do you think Mason Foster stays around now?
Well, I don't think it really matters because no, it's not a harder question in my view because Reuben Foster is Zach Brown's replacement. Reuben Foster's
I realize that, but
I don't think Mason Foster's status on the Redskins was contingent upon Reuben Foster playing in the first place.
Really, because most people seem to think that the only reason Mason Foster was kept around was until Reuben Foster got cleared.
I realize that, but I totally disagree with most people.
Yeah, I disagree with this notion. I think that without diving too deep into it, a lot of people, especially on Twitter, you'll see them have their issue with Mason, and it has a lot to do with the fact that he got exposed towards the later end of the year, in addition to his comments about Redskins fans. So even, at one point he was a fan favorite, just about how he treated people on Twitter and how he treated people in person. So, once you sour on the fan base, it's going to be hard for them to say anything positive about you or realistic. Their deals, the type of player that they are is just different. So the Redskins need him until there's somebody on that team or somebody that they acquire that can challenge Mason Foster, who's also younger, faster, and has the capability of calling the defense all three downs. And that's going to be hard for somebody to do that in place of Mason.
I mean, Mason Foster's been good to us on this show, number one.
Yeah, I don't dislike Mason as a person or a player. I know there was the issue, with what he said on social media, but generally, I think he's a fine linebacker.
I don't. I think he's washed up.
He's inconsistent.
I think he's washed up.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it, Sean. He's inconsistent. Like, I literally just got a notification on my phone now where I had mentioned, like, my argument that I just made for Mason, like a logical argument that I just made for Mason. I had said that on Twitter earlier today, and somebody said, "Well, what the hell does he do? What the hell does he do well? He doesn't do anything better that Sean Deion Hamilton can't do for $4 million less." But I mean, yeah, it's. I understand, Alex, that I know you don't have a dislike for Mason. It's just some people they're not going to see through it, and they're going to see that they're going to feel like he's way worse than what he really is. He's not as bad as they claim he is to be.
I generally, first of all, I didn't really get too upset about his comments about the fans on Twitter or whatever it was, because social media is, first of all, the spawn of Satan. You know, it's just the worst. It brings out the worst in people. I don't think it really does much good for society, and I think we'd be better off if there was no social media. And so I just can't blame him. I just can't get too upset about that. And the other thing is, I mean, Sean Dion Hamilton hasn't played a lot. I think it's probably a mistake to just automatically assume that Sean Dion Hamilton is going to be come in and step in and be an outstanding starter. You know, I think it's possible. And if it was between the two of them, I'd probably play Hamilton. But it may not be wise to just get rid of Foster and just rely on Sean Dion Hamilton immediately because there's not a basis for that.
And that's exactly my whole issue. That's exactly the argument that I make. And it's not necessarily like you don't expect Mason can be here in September and not start. Like that's a possibility. Well, for $4 million, he may get cut at that point, but that will be a sign that they trust an individual. I'm not even going to say Sean Dion because it could be somebody else, right. But they trust the individual to come in.
Who knows who we'll draft?
Yeah. Nobody knows anything right now, but somebody can come in and prove that they can handle the load that Mason Foster was able to do for the Redskins defense. So, even down the road, like it may be an extent where somebody can prove that they're better than Mason. But right now, for the very short term or near future, they have to make sure that they have their bases covered because there's nobody that's proven they can do what Mason can.
And I think also that the team seemed to be pretty confident that Reuben Foster was going to play, and they were willing to let Zach Brown go for that reason. I mean, maybe the team knew all along that this woman wasn't going to talk, and that's why Bruce Allen was always as confident about it, maybe. Yeah. You know, because they kind of had the same situation with Zach Brown, but unless they really knew Reuben was going to play. So, but it's just different with Mason Foster and Sean Dion Hamilton. You know, I just think right now he's an insurance policy. I don't think the team really cares 2 bits what he said on Twitter about fans. I think that's totally irrelevant to him.
Sure.
It would be different if they criticized the front office. DJ Swearinger proved that, you know. Yep. But Mason criticized the fans, and quite honestly, I think our front office doesn't really care much about fans or our opinion, you know.
They do not.
Clearly.
Yeah, as they've proven. Yeah. So I don't think Mason Foster's comments really registered on the Richter scale with him at all.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the one thing I'll say, thinking about what this means for the team, though, is I just kind of did like a little pencil in my head. Who are your best guys? Well, pencil, writing it down and thinking about it. Who are your guys that you would trust at this point now to be down in, down out starters? And it adds one more name to that list of a talented player who.
There's just no reason to get rid of him right now.
No,
it's not to their team's advantage. They have a 90-man roster. They have the rule of 51. They can suck up his contract for the time being. And if somebody steps up in training camp, like Jamal said, I mean, you don't know who's going to end up being on this team, after the draft and all that. Maybe the next London Fletcher comes out of nowhere, as an undrafted free agent, and maybe that happens. And if that happens, yeah, sure, get rid of him. But right now, there's no advantage to the team to get rid of. Yes, he has sucked last year. He did not have a good year. But he's at least a warm-bodied body who can at least be a starter.
And his salary is under $5 million. It's not insane or anything.
It's a big number. But I mean, there's just time. There's no reason to do that now.
It's that weird NFL, like what a big number is can be a lot of things now, though. Because $5 million is nothing compared to. You're paying $20 million to a corner. You're paying $20 million to a quarterback who's not playing.
$84 million to a quarterback who has a devastated leg, for example.
Too soon, Steve.
Or you're another team that decides 100% guarantee a player the contract of a quarterback who's been proven to be terrible in big moments.
Right. There's a lot of things. And we still don't quite have a glut of elite defensive talent anyway. We have, I would say we have 7-8 guys who are really good at their position.
I would argue we have nobody who's an elite player right yet. I would argue that we have a few players who have the potential of becoming elite players.
Well, okay, they're good players.
Landon Collins may be the one closest to be calling right now today elite, and then Ryan Kerrigan. I forgot about Ryan Kerrigan. So the two of them you could probably call elite level.
They're
players.
Elite, but then the front line. You got 3 good guys on the front line. You got. Now Foster's a good linebacker, the Reuben Foster, and Norman and Dunbar are okay corners. You know, like you have some, but you don't have.
I mean, you've got guys on the precipice, right? I mean, you've got John Allen and Ron Payne on the, who are trending towards being great players.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not like you have 15 of these guys. You've got maybe 8 or 9 of them.
Yeah. And of course, the one, who Alex likes the most, of course, Matt Ioannidis.
Oh, I was going to say Dunbar.
Is he taking a shower right now, Alex? Where is he? Can you get him on the show? No, but but anyway, my point is, I don't think the roster is such that they can just dump Mason Foster today. There's no advantage to the team. They don't need the roster spot, and they don't need the cap space. Why would you get rid of him now?
Wait for someone to flash in the pan in this offseason and then drop him, and then he'll go.
Like, hey, Mason, do you see that guy right there? You see how good he's playing?
Right.
You keep on sucking, we're going to cut you.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
At least try and trade him first. That's all.
I think they actually did though. That part they tried to trade him, Zach Brown, and a couple other players and got no good offers. So that's why they cut Zach.
Oh, that's right. They did kind of.
It's like when you have mediocre older players
out there.
You have mediocre older players with big contracts. You're going to get Doritos back for them, if anything.
Hey, but like I'll take Doritos versus just you cut them and there's a cap hit.
It depends on the brand.
if it's like the generic Doritos that are like
the nacho cheese.
Yeah.
Well, those are good. No, this is like we're gonna get like the Kroger brand Doritos, the fake Doritos.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
I think the best Doritos, personally, are the nacho cheese Doritos.
I like the chili, the spicy chili ones.
I'm not a big that one.
I'm not a big Doritos guy, just in general. Like I prefer just normal plain corn chips and salsa, but
I love Doritos, but the ones you're talking about, Jamal.
Tostilas, Alex.
Any kind of corn chip, yes.
Any kind of thing that has spicy anything in it, I can't eat it.
Well, so you don't like the spicy Doritos then?
No, I can't eat those.
Steve doesn't live on the edge. He doesn't put his food on the grill. He puts everything in the microwave.
Did Doritos do like a mix bag for a while where it was like half spicy, half Cool Ranch or something?
I'm not sure.
Or is that somebody else?
They did that one thing where they put one extremely hot chip in the bag, but you didn't know which one it was.
I would be so mad if I bought that bag. And
they really did that?
Yeah, they really did that.
That was a thing. Okay.
Extremely hot chip.
So it was like a chip Russian roulette situation.
Yes, that's exactly.
I would be so mad if I got stuck with the hot chip.
Did that chip look exactly like the other chips?
It did.
Oh
it did.
Yeah, I want to.
They did a good job.
I want to try that.
Oh, okay.
They stopped doing it.
Yeah, they stopped.
Oh my goodness!
Thank God.
I think so.
Football, people.
Yeah, football.
Sorry,
okay,
that was my fault.
Point is, Mason Foster is a low brand Dorito that nobody really wanted.
There you go. That's right.
That's the perfect bookend. All right, well, let's unless there's anything else about linebackers or anything like that, Foster, we can move on to the poll.
Sure.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Wait,
what was
our linebackers in the poll? I don't remember.
Poll.
Yeah, were they? Were they?
No, the poll question.
No, it was about the draft.
Yeah, so we're done. We're ending linebackers at this point.
Right.
All right, let's do some draft talk.
Okay.
Hit us with it, Steve.
All right, so I did another poll because I still felt shamed from 2 weeks ago about Jamal's comments, and so I had to come up with another poll question. And here it was. And forgive me for those of you out there who noticed it was only one day. Sorry, I forgot to do it on Thursday, and I did it on Friday instead. So the poll question this week was, what do you want the Redskins to do with pick 15 other than trade for Josh Rosen? And I carved Josh Rosen out because that was a separate poll. It's kind of a separate question, so forget about that. So the options for responses were draft a quarterback, draft an edge rusher, some other position and explain, or trade down. So those are options. So as we do every week on this thing, I want to hear how you guys would vote, and what you think the public voted for. So let's start with Jamal this time. Jamal, what do you think?
Now I know what I said, but what was the first two choices again?
It was quarterback, edge rusher, other, or trade down.
I think it was edge rusher. Now, like I said I think was it yesterday, I didn't vote on purpose so I can give a guess. But I do think they said edge rusher. And I personally would, and I fell in love with this. Like I didn't convince myself at this point. Honestly, I would go for other and I would go for tight end. I would go for T.J. Hockenson, just because of the versatility he could bring to this offense. And he is he may not be the style that people like, but he is a dynamic playmaker. If we can use him, and I mean Jay Gruden loves his tight ends, so it's not going to be difficult for him to use him. So yeah, I love T.J. Hockenson.
Okay, Alex, what's your opinion? What do you think?
All right, so I'll do the fans first because I think the fans went other because it's the easy hipster move, and it's not really even a hipster move, but it's easy to say other and just write down somebody you really like.
We got a lot of those type of comments.
Yeah, exactly. So but for me personally, it would depend on who's there so much, but I guess I'll just say defensive end,
okay,
or edge rusher, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, because. My number one guy in the draft that I think might be there is an edge rusher at this point.
Who's
that? Sweat.
Okay.
Oh, you think he's going to make it to 15?
I think
in your personal
of
opinion?
any of them, he might.
Okay.
Somebody's going to fall at 15. All right, Sean, your opinion. What do you think? I know last week you were afraid to take a guess what the fans thought, but
I'm always afraid.
Take a stab at it.
Yeah, this is tough because, look, QB's a need, edge rusher's a need. Jamal said tight end. That's also a need.
Remember, the question was, what would you want them to do? The question is, what would you want the Redskins to do?
Yeah, I think, honestly, I'm going to say other myself. I'm going to say probably wide receiver.
Okay.
Would be my answer to that. But in terms of what other people guessed, I don't think anyone said trade down. I guess I'm going to say probably people said other, and there's a whole litany of options that people put in there.
Okay. Well, as it turns out, this was another runaway poll. Edge rusher won going away. Yeah, 54% of you out there voted for edge rusher. And despite the fact that it was only up for 24 hours and 8 of those hours was the middle of the night, we got a lot of votes for this anyway. So edge rusher won.
I'm surprised that it was that much, given that we've gone defense the last 2 drafts in a row.
Well, it's kind of the chic. It is the edge rusher. It's the hipster thing to say is edge rusher right now. Because everybody's talking about it.
That's the real hipster thing.
Yeah, it is. Okay, second place, way back at 18% was quarterback. Quarterback won. Well, I haven't given you my vote yet. Just wait. You're not going to like my vote again. Okay.
Oh my God.
The third place was trade down with 15%, and other was actually last, 13%.
Who wants to trade out of our high picks? What the hell?
15% of you want to do it. That's who. I would have voted quarterback on this.
SMH.
I think. The Redskins have had. I wrote about this week. The Redskins have historically had horrible luck trying to get franchise quarterbacks. We've really had 3 in our franchise entire 86-year history, which is Sonny, Sam, and Joe. And beyond that, we've really had nothing in all the years. So I think you got to keep trying. And truly, if a guy like Dwayne Haskins is available. Forget about Josh Rosen because we carved that out of the poll. But if Dwayne Haskins really is available at like 13, I think the Redskins would be absolute fools to not try and grab him. And yes, there's a ton of other needs. I realize that. They desperately need an edge rusher. They don't have one. They need a left guard. We don't have one. They need Jamal Hawkinson would be a great pick, a tight end, because we could trade Jordan Reed, get rid of him. I realize that. But if you don't have a quarterback, you're nothing. And I think you can play this game forever about, let's build up the team first so we can get the quarterback later. And there's never an end to that. I think at some point you just have to suck it up, draft the quarterback, and do the best you can with it. And if it doesn't work,
who's going to catch balls from him, Steve? Who's going to receive these balls?
The players we have, and then they can go get.
Which are Josh Doctson.
I realize that, but this
else?
Is my point, though. We can argue this forever. Every year there's going to be holes, and at some point you have to draft a quarterback. And I just think they're in a pretty good position. If Dwayne Haskins really is falling, I think it'd be a great time to get. I think he'd be a fit for this offense. I think Dwayne Haskins is a classic pocket passing, quick release quarterback. And no, he's not athletic. No, he's not going to threaten a defense with his legs. But I think he fits perfectly with what Jay Gruden would want to do. And if he's there, grab him, and we'll worry about everything else later.
I would like to say that you definitely you make a really good argument. And that would be a solid option. I wouldn't be opposed to grabbing a quarterback for the 15th pick. I mean, depending on who it is, because
right. I'm not talking about Daniel Jones. Okay, I'm talking about Dwayne Haskins in particular.
Yeah, and it all depends on like who they select, and we can evaluate the decision later. But the position itself is solid. But I will also like to point out too, it has nothing to do with quarterback. If we were to get another tight end, I would just say you can cut Vernon Davis and save yourself like $6 million. Right. You don't have to cut Jordan, and that'll just add to the weaponry that we do have. So when you say to Sean, when you ask who is going to throw him the ball, or no, who is he going to throw to, you have options. Again, you get weaponry early on or even mid round. But if you get that quarterback, and just to help add to Steve's point, when you get that quarterback, if he was that franchise guy, that franchise changer, that can make the throws, the proper throws, and can throw guys open, it will be less of a burden on the receivers to always get 100% separation. The quarterback will help him out just as much as they struggle to get to get that separation that they really need to have a quarterback see them open or something like that. So it works in both favor. So and that's what I like to add for the quarterback position. It's not as bad if you can get that really good quarterback.
What I'll say about and I'm not against drafting a quarterback by any means, but I will say that I'm also a big proponent that if you draft a quarterback, you really shouldn't try and start him right away. And I like Haskins a lot. And Locke, even, I could see drafting him if you were willing to take the time to groom him. But both those guys, neither of them look like week one starters to me, which is one thing that, you got to take into consideration. But, yeah, I just don't. I know Gruden at least said at one point that he thought that Locke was probably further along and closer to being ready to play than Haskins. Yeah, which was
first of all, let me knock out the comments here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then we'll get into the draft.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And so forgive me as I scroll through this because once again I didn't print these and I don't like just reading like this. But
right.
We got a bunch of comments, so thanks to everybody who responded.
A lot of those other comments, like you said.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of, this is who I'd pick, at Juju804, for example, this is Cody Ford, understand that. Ryan Alvarez, best available regardless of position, which I absolutely hate that, but, to each your own. Dave, who is at D_Opus, he says, it depends. If we don't trade for Rosen, we might go up for a quarterback. If not.
So his name is Dopus?
D_Opus, yeah, so Dopus. If not, and a great edge rusher is at 15. Take him. If not, trade back.
Sorry, what was his first choice? Did he say Metcalf?
No, he said if it depends. If we don't trade for Rosen, we might go up for a quarterback, which is what I was saying.
Oh, up for a quarterback. Okay, yeah.
Got it. Somebody named Soto Savior sent a photo of a guy pointing. I don't know what he meant by that, so thanks for that input. Appreciate it. Appreciate the thought. Ed Sheehan, who is at NFL Photo Guy, who I believe is one of the official photographers from NFL.
He is.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out.
No, he was a former Redskins photographer. That's what it was. Anyway,
but I think he still does photos.
Something, yeah.
He's like a freelance guy.
He's not just a guy. Yeah, he says it's not that simple. Take who is on the board. If Haskins there, I take him. But the Redskins need to win, so they likely go edge. Virginia Trout Slayer says T.J. Hawkinson. I guess he's a fisherman.
Why is that name funny?
Well, because he's slaying trout, so meaning he likes to fish is what it's about.
Sean cracked up. I started smiling. I don't know.
Our buddy Rick chimed in. Rick Rogers, he said edge, but tough call if Hawkinson's on the board. And no, Rick, you cannot have a T-shirt. You need to buy it. Sorry.
Right. Rick wrote, I asked for people to write in questions when we thought it would be a slow news week, and Rick is the only one who said, can I get a T-shirt? No.
You cannot.
Buy one.
Yeah, exactly. No name trail rider, says Brian Burns. Here's a Metcalf. Yeah.
Brian Burns isn't bad.
Yeah, Brian Burns.
Somebody wants a Metcalf? Okay,
yeah, at 2126 Chris says, depends on who's available. I like Burns or DK Metcalf. It goes on from there. Cam White, who I think he's one of our posters, right, Alex?
Yeah, he is.
He wrote Cody Ford. And it goes on from there. So those are comments. Thanks very much, everybody who participated, as always, in the poll. We will do another one this week.
Yeah, we'll try and think of a fun one that's not the same. Hey, who you want to draft?
Well, it'll probably be something like, do you like who we drafted? Will probably be.
Well, we still have one more week, right?
I got something for him as we head into the draft.
Okay. All right. Good.
We'll be good money.
All right.
So that's the poll. That's the poll question. Now, in terms of who we're going to draft, what we think, and all that stuff. I mean, what do you?
We have 20 minutes to kill. What do you guys think?
What do you guys think? I mean, first of all, again, I think if Dwayne Haskins lasts to low teens, I think we ought to toss a second round pick at him and draft him. If he's not available and he goes in the top 10, I mean, there's so many needs. Wide receiver is a big need. Tight end's a big need. Edge rush is a big need. I don't think there's a guard really worthy of a pick at 15. So to me, you kind of narrow the scope of things to receiver, tight end, and edge rusher. So if a guy like Montez Sweat is there, grab him. In terms of DK Metcalf, I think it really depends on how the team feels about him. There's a lot of controversy over whether he's a complete receiver and all of that. Mm-hmm. So I think it just depends on how the coaches feel about him as to whether they'll draft him.
Well, what I kind of did before we started was I kind of just jotted down like my top 4 guys I want. Sweat, like I said earlier, number 1, no question. If he falls, I would take him because he fills a major position of need, and there's that whole blue chip or could you see this guy in the Hall of Fame question, and he's one of those guys that I look at in this draft who I think could be that good. The other one, I don't think he'll fall either, but White, the linebacker at LSU, even though we have Foster, that would be more of a strong side guy he could, be paired with, and I think that would upgrade the defense. After that, I put Haskins. Haskins is my number 3, and I think he might fall, Steve. I don't know. From everything we're seeing in
quarterbacks don't usually fall, though. I have a hard time.
Yeah, that's true.
Happen.
I mean, Rosen fell last year, but he got to 10, and then Arizona jumped.
I mean, the biggest one that fell I can think of in the past many years is Aaron Rodgers, who actually
that's a famous one.
Like Geno Smith fell, but he deserved to fall because he's terrible.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers obviously is not, and he fell to whatever the Packers were at, that year.
Yeah. But I'm with you. I think he's. I've never been a Kyler Murray guy. I think he's the best quarterback here is Haskins for this draft at least. So if he's there, and there's a great article. I don't know if it was last week or this week, but Sean Springs.
My quarterback article from our website this week?
No. I'm talking about it was an interview with Sean Springs, who apparently has been mentoring Haskins his whole career since middle school.
Yeah, I saw that. I read that too.
Yeah, that was a pretty interesting kind of insight into him as a player that kind of really made me think, you could get him and he could be your franchise guy for 15 years.
He's a smart guy. He's not a dummy. And, he's well-liked at Ohio State. I think the risk to me of Haskins is the risk you take with all of these quarterbacks at top schools, in that if you watch the games, first of all, look at the receivers that Ohio State had. They were burners, man. They all run 4.3 40s. It's one of the top teams in the country. He's beaten up on other lesser talent for 10 out of 12 games. I mean, and Haskins was only 1-year starter. Which is, if you put that risk on Murray, you got to put the same risk on Haskins.
Absolutely. And speaking of the Ohio State thing, though, I've done a million mock drafts, but I've done multiple ones where I've drafted Haskins at 15 and then Paris Campbell in the second round. So just get them together and have them do the same thing.
I can honestly say I've done, I think, one mock draft, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to do another for our drafting.
I've never done a mock draft.
This is Alex's thing. He loves them.
Yeah, it's fun.
You are
when you're bored.
You're our mock draft expert, man. That's what
I don't know. We've had multiple mock draft experts on the show. I don't know about that.
No, when we ask you to project where you expect to play, look, when we said Montez Sweat may fall, I took that as expert opinion. That's what I did.
I don't know about expert, but
it might be a mistake, Jamal.
Yeah, that probably is.
Nah,
probably not even might
but
be.
No, if I have any questions, because I think we're going to be doing one soon, so I need to.
Yeah.
I need to worry. I need to talk to you about this type of stuff.
But look, in terms of players and whatnot, we've heard the rumor. The Redskins. Do we have a list? The Redskins have brought in almost every quarterback in the draft.
Anyone who's like a first or second rounder, it's
brought in
almost all of them.
Essentially all of them. Right.
I don't think they brought
mid-rounds.
in late guys.
Yeah, they brought in a bunch of mid-round guys too. You're right. Yeah. We've heard the Redskins like Daniel Jones.
Right.
Daniel Jones gets a lot of heat, justifiably so. I don't personally think he's a first-round pick. I ranked him number 5 on my board, which is lower than what other experts rank him. To me, he's more like a second, third-round guy. Yeah. But the Redskins like him. We've heard the Redskins like Drew Lock. Drew Lock has got a good enough arm that he's going to get drafted high by somebody. His problem is he's inconsistent. He's got weird mechanics. He's got weird footwork.
He needs a year. He's that kind of guy where
and he is experienced though. That's his other benefit is that he's played a lot more. He's played 3.5 years.
Right.
Whereas
I hate this so much. This quarterback stuff. Oh,
you got to keep doing it. Look, I mean, the Browns have been drafting quarterback and failing at it every year for like a decade at least, and they finally found one that at least had one good year.
I mean, I'm just coming at it from we had 4 quarterbacks last year.
Yep.
Maybe that's part of it, but maybe we should just try to lock this team down at all the other positions that you need to support a good quarterback. Give him someone to throw to. Make sure you don't have gaping holes at left guard or someone that's supposed to be protecting him, and just lock the team down and make it quality before you slot a 7th or 8th person in there.
I think there's no point in playing if you don't have a quarterback.
And I get that. I'm not really saying you're wrong with that instinct. I just think maybe we should try a different tactic. It's just
they tried every tactic though, man. That's the problem.
Sean,
tried every tactic.
I'll point something out. We haven't drafted a quarterback high in 6 years.
6 years. No, you're right. I know. And like I said, I know the quality of the 4 people we had playing was suspect across the board. I do get that.
Well, really, before that, it was Jason Campbell's a first-round pick, and then Heath Schuler before that. And that was in 1994. Right. So it's not like they are taking your approach, Sean. And it's never worked.
I mean, Campbell was somewhat stable for a couple of years. He was never good, but he was stable.
He was decent.
I don't know.
Quarterback.
I'm just looking at it like the last time we had 2 quality receivers on this team, we didn't have much of a running game. Now we supposedly have a very strong running game. I would like to see what it happens.
And we have no
with a
receivers.
balanced offense, and we have no receivers. Exactly. So I just like to see both of those pieces in place before picking some crazy.
I just think if you have a quarterback that's available. A potential franchise quarterback, I think you'd be fools to pass on him. We need a guard first. Let's pass on the quarterback and draft a guard. I think that's idiotic, in my opinion.
I think we have.
I don't want to take a guard.
We have 4 picks in the first 100 picks.
Yeah.
If they don't come away with a guard and a wide receiver and an edge rusher in those first 4 picks, yes, they're doing it wrong at that point. But you can play with 1 pick, and that could be your first rounder on a quarterback. That could be maybe a third rounder on a quarterback. But I think they need to get somebody high enough who the fans can have some hope for. Have
you noticed something here? Jamal has been completely silent. I'm thinking he thinks we're fools.
Well, his camera's off. I don't even know if he's walked away at this point.
I'm listening. I'm just because I know Sean feels a way he doesn't. He feels like he wants to build the team first, and this is not my argument to be involved. I'm just a listener. That's all. Right. But I mean, if I had to say anything, I would simply say I understand. I understand what Alex is saying best in terms of the top 100 picks. So it's important to hit on like that type of value when you have that. A good amount of picks in the top 100. It's important to hit on that type of value because you're going to get the best picks possible in there. And I mean, obviously the draft is a crapshoot. However, when you're targeting certain players and ranking their value in the top 100, it's essential again to make sure that these are the ones that you don't miss on. So that's all I'd have to say. But like I said, I'm just sitting here listening to the argument. I understand what Sean is saying, building the team up first, but I also agree with the quarterback thing. So that's why I'm out of it.
Here's my problem with Sean. Your point. I don't know when is the line? When are we officially good enough where we're allowed to draft a quarterback? My guess is that the team's never going to be good enough for not for you in particular, but I mean, there's always holes. So so we do this. We ignore quarterback this year, don't draft one, and we roll with Case Keenum, which Case is a competent pro at a bare minimum. He might not be great, but he'll get us through.
He'll get us to 7 wins, maybe.
When are we formally good enough we can now draft a quarterback? What is the line, and how do you calculate that point? And isn't the team always going to be mediocre without a great quarterback? Would you pass on? If you were the Colts in the early '90s, would you pass on Peyton Manning because your team wasn't good enough for him? I wouldn't have. I'd have taken him in a heartbeat.
Yeah, no, it's a completely no. That's totally fair. I guess my answer to that would be if you had one receiver that was the quality of Deshaun Jackson or Pierre Garçon, even at the same time as you had one running back at least that was on par with what Adrian Peterson did last year, or even the potential of Geis. So just one in each position.
Can't they draft Deebo Samuel in round 2?
They could. I'm just saying that would make me feel a lot better about taking a quarterback that is sort of a boomer bust option, unless there's really one guy that you're like, this is totally the complete package. There's no doubt about it. And when can you ever really say that?
Andrew Luck is basically the only one in the past decade.
And he has yet to really win a championship. So I mean, he's been good, but yeah, and he's been on a terrible team.
Draft grade was the one that you're talking about. Andrew Luck has like the highest draft grade of anybody in the past 20
an A+ draft grade kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to criticize your opinion, Sean. I mean, I just disagree with it, and I disagree with it because I just think you can play this game forever. And I've heard this for years. Build the line first, and that's great and wonderful. And I agree, we need to build the line. I just don't know when we're done.
And I'll throw another caveat into that. When are we done? Question. This team and the front office, they don't retain all their talent, and this is something I always go back to. Like, do you really think they're going to re-sign Matt Ioannidis? And I know Steve likes to have a crush on him, but he's a very good player. Yeah. Do you think that they will – I mean, we saw the last couple of years. There are plenty of good players that they'd just like to let walk away at the end of every season.
The Redskins have a history of letting players walk.
Right.
The Kerrigan was one of the few that they have retained in the past 20 years.
They basically keep one draft pick from each draft class, usually just their first rounder.
If that.
Yeah. And
the Redskins, in particular, more than other teams, have a history of letting their players walk. There's no doubt about that.
Well, let me ask you all about this question here. Is there – now, I'll just simply make it a general one, not specific. Has there been any player that has hit the free agency market after the rookie contract expired that was worth matching or paying more than the competitor? Now think about.
I've got one.
Okay, go ahead.
Brian Arakpo. I'd have kept Brian Arakpo. He had health problems more than he had performance problems. He kept tearing his pec, and as he proved,
that's why he was on the franchise tag, because he couldn't stay healthy.
I know that, but he did stay healthy in Tennessee. He proved he could stay healthy, and I think it was more fluky. You asked my opinion. Brian Arakpo would have been the one I would have kept.
2 years ago, I would have kept Breland, and I would have tried to keep Chris Long, and this season I would have done everything I could to. Spencer Long, sorry. And this year, I would have done everything I could to keep Crowder around.
Crowder got a.
So you would have paid. So you would have paid at least $9 million to keep Crowder.
I would. That's what receivers go for now, man. And he's better than anyone else we've had. So, yes,
he was kind of our guy.
Look, I'll just say.
And I think he was Jay Gruden's guy. I think he fit what Jay wanted very well.
I'll just say, even though the Spencer Long is one argument that I would consider because he could play guard. Even though they was developing him as a center after Lichtensteiger left or retired, that would be one person I consider. But after that, like, who can you really say at this point? For me, who can you really say at this point like that we lost isn't replaceable? Like, these guys are completely replaceable. Even with Crowder on the field this year, you didn't really see that much production from him. He had the one big play this year that boosted his stats. So one catch for like 70 yards and a touchdown.
This was his bad year, but he was a consistent 700 yards.
Well, even in 2017, he had drops in concentration issues, even fumbles, a lot of fumbles on special teams, which that's the reason. Or another reason why Trey Quinn was, even though we knew his contract, Jamison Crowder's contract was coming to an end, it was the same thing. Like we knew that we needed to find somebody who could play slot and that could return punts and stuff like that.
Crowder got 3 years, $28.5 million, $17 million guaranteed. I'd have let him go for that. I wouldn't have brought him back for an average annual value of almost $10 million.
I'm just saying.
I think any decent receiver, if he's the only one who can play, because to Sean's point, Sean's right. Our two receivers are terrible. Almost any decent receiver can go out there and get 50 catches. You're not really like a plus player. For example, I don't really believe in the baseball WAR stat because I think it's stupid and it's a predictive stat that's not really based on science. But if you kind of go by that, okay, how much better is the team over his replacement? I think Crowder, really and truly, he might have been the best receiver we had because our receivers suck. Or are young and haven't developed yet, but I don't think Crowder is some kind of great receiver. I think
I'm not saying he's great, but I'm saying he's good enough to. I would have kept him. I'm a big believer in drafting and retaining talent.
At $9.5 million a year.
So for me,
well, if you do it, maybe you do it a year before and it's not $9.5 million. Maybe you say, "Hey, this guy's been decent for 3 years. Let's re-sign him now."
Yeah, I mean that's fair, but I mean it just depends because like we can say that from a fan perspective, but we don't know what Jamison Crowder knew he would make on the open market. Like I don't know if he had the forecast or foreshadowing or anything like that.
Well, it's probably his agent.
That's what I'm referring to. Like we don't know if he was informed. Like you can make much more. Same situation with Kirk. Like in 2015 when they tried to pay him something, his agent was telling him how much he was going to make at this point. Like he gave him that one opportunity and he blew it. And just so I understand what you're saying, and the only thing I'm saying with the free agents that we've lost and how it doesn't necessarily dictate what's going to happen with who we draft this year and for future purposes. It's just I haven't seen that one person where over the years where you're like outside of Jordan Reed, he was the only one really because like it was clear cut what he could do for this team. I haven't seen one person where you're like, okay, we need to re-sign this person. And I know they're working on Brandon Sheriff now. They're trying to get that out the way. So I expect that to be done sometime this year. But outside of that, like you can't really see. You haven't really. I haven't really seen that person personally.
I'd have done a Rakpo personally.
I mean, at least we got a Rakpo for a bulk of his career. That they did it right, re-signing him the first time. So there's that.
Yeah.
Oh, he made it to a second contract with us. I forgot.
Well, he got a couple franchise tag.
Oh, the franchise tag.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, but Jamal, in broad terms, I agree with you in that there haven't been a ton, that they've let walk. I disagree with Alex, and I would have kept Crowder at some point, but not for $28.5 million. I wouldn't have kept him. I think you can draft somebody in the draft like a Deebo Samuel who can be as good or better than Crowder from day one, for example.
You're never going to get past where you are if you keep letting good guys walk.
Yeah, I mean, the Green Bay Packers agree with you,
yes.
For example.
I think a lot of teams that aren't the New England Patriots that have success, they keep their talent in-house. And if a guy's got talent and he's a good on-the-field guy and the coaches like him, you got to keep these guys around. You can't just say, oh, well, we'll just, draft a replacement. We'll just draft. Because guess what? You're going to do that every year. You're not going to get past 500.
I understand your point. I mean, I just don't think that there's been too many of them. Spencer Long.
To me, that means that it's more important to keep them.
Spencer Long got replaced.
Yeah.
Spencer Long lost his job to a younger, cheaper, better guy. At some level, sure, keep Spencer Long, but I'm not going to go match what he got from, was it the Bills? I'm not going to go match that contract.
Although, what he got after the Bills let him go this year.
No, the Jets, and then the Bills. I think he got picked up by the Bills, I believe. But he got
okay. You're right.
Yeah,
you're right. I mean, but I'm just not going to. He got a big contract from the Jets. I'm not doing that for Spencer Long. You were supposed to be the center, and you lost your job. Well, I don't think he was good enough.
No, I can't remember. Did he lose the center job, or did he move to guard after Laval got hurt, and then everyone said, "Well, Chase is better."
Well, I mean the latter. But
Yeah.
the point is, Chase is a better, younger, cheaper
Center. Yes, I agree with that, but because he was a better guard than Sean Laval
at the cost of what the
I think
Jets
it was
paid
$6
for.
million a year or something like
I just
that.
wouldn't
Yeah.
have done it. I would have drafted somebody last year for the
Well,
guard.
and that's the other thing. If you're going to constantly let guys walk, then you're forced to draft their replacements all the time.
I'm not even disagreeing with you in concept. I'm just
Yeah.
saying I disagree with Jamal that there haven't been a ton.
No,
'Cause,
there.
you know, like
I mean,
Scott McLuhan didn't really draft well.
no,
when
he
was
didn't.
here. You know, we haven't drafted well compared to other teams for a long time.
Yeah, but to me, that just makes keeping who you have more important sometimes.
Not at a cost that you know.
Yeah,
Because the Rams are signing all these people. It's going to come back to haunt them, and it's going to come back to haunt them when Jared Goff's contract comes up.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're basically loading up while he's still on his rookie deal. But when that time comes where they got to pay him, it's going to be primarily on McVay and Goff to carry the load for that team. And personally, I don't have faith in Goff at all. I never did. He just drastically improved with McVay, but I don't think he's going to be able to do that.
Maybe they'll get crazy and just not sign Goff and get another rookie.
I mean, it's the same thing.
Possibly.
It's the same thing Seattle's going through.
Yeah,
You know, but
they're going
Russell
through it even
Wilson's-
worse now. 'Cause
Russell Wilson's trying to put a gun to their head,
Yeah.
metaphorically speaking, and he's openly stated he wants the biggest contract in NFL history. Well, if they do that, the Ravens can attest to what happens when you do that
yeah,
with
Yeah.
the Flacco contract.
Well, and-
I've really come to believe that unless it's a very, very special quarterback like a Tom Brady, Peyton Manning type, I've really come around to the idea that you can't overpay these quarterbacks.
no, you really can't. And the Cowboys are going to do it too. Apparently, it
I hope
sounds like
they do.
with
I hope
Yeah.
they do.
I hope so.
because that guy ain't done. Dak's done nothing compared to like Russell Wilson.
No.
Those contracts are hurting the overall product the NFL is putting out there, in my opinion. It's absolute shame that quarterbacks are demanding that much money. It's making every team worse.
There is a serious argument for that.
Look at the Vikings, for God's sakes. The Vikings could have done at least as well as they did last year with Kirk Cousins. And we all, Kirk Cousins is worn out his welcome in D.C. and all that. But I'm just objectively speaking, with the exact same team, except the replacement of Kirk Cousins from Case Keenum, they did worse. And yes, spare me, they had injuries, and I get it. But the point is, Kirk Cousins didn't get it done. And he got a ton of money, and he didn't get it done. Right. I've really come to believe that I think you got to strike while these quarterbacks are on a rookie deal. Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. I mean,
unless
I think
you have a true all-time great Hall of Fame, like Peyton Manning falls in your lap, then you got to do it. But beyond that, I just don't think you have to overpay quarterbacks. I'm done with that.
I'm with
the
you.
Redskins even had the opportunity because they haven't had any good quarterbacks.
And no, we did overpay one. His name's Alex Smith right now.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yes,
yeah,
we did.
exactly. And Alex Smith can barely walk.
Yes.
It's true.
Oh, delightful. All right, anything else we want to say? We're 2 minutes slightly over our time limit. Any other final thoughts you guys want to throw out?
It's draft week. We
It's
will.
a big time.
Yeah, so we are not going to live stream the draft or anything like that because, quite honestly, you can get better commentary on the NFL Network than from us.
Also, it's going to be my wife's. Yeah.
Sorry,
25th.
Yeah.
It's draft week's eve.
You're right. So forgive me, I'm getting my calendar all confused. But point is, we will be there for the draft, commentary and all that. So it's coming up. I don't know.
Probably going to be publishing some stuff too.
We'll be writing a lot. We'll probably behind the scenes do our show after the draft on Sunday. So
Yeah, well, it'll be invisible to the public, but we're
Yes.
gonna wait and
yeah.
Tweet us your best Game of Thrones costumes. Winners won't get anything, but we'll just make sure to acknowledge you.
Costumes. See, I have no eye.
Hold on, wait, no. If you're grilling this weekend, tweet us
Yeah.
or send us your. Well, we'll get it Monday, but I'm sure you'll have pictures. Everybody has pictures. But if you're grilling, send us them for the next show so we can go ahead and mesmerize in the pictures that you put forth on the internet.
And send me your best microwave dinner.
Yeah, do that.
Send Steve your Hot Pockets. Send Jamal and I.
All that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Hot Pockets. I love it.
Those are good. Those are worthy. Yeah, I like Hot Pockets. Those are a worthy lunch.
If I've had like way too much to drink, I do like me a Hot Pocket.
The week when Jamal brought this microwave thing up, my lunch, I microwaved my breakfast, which was a sausage biscuit. I microwaved lunch, which was a chicken sandwich, and then I think I might have gone out for
Sounds like
dinner
all
Saturday.
food.
But then I microwaved breakfast and lunch again on Sunday.
That sounds like all processed food too. By the way, it was frozen, wasn't it?
I can't remember what I had on Sunday. I don't know. I can't remember. Probably so. Yes.
Yeah. I pray. Look, let us all pray for Steve too. By the way.
Yep.
Pray for his
Everybody
colon. Pray for Steve's colon.
I'm remarkably healthy.
Yeah, because you have to work out at 4 a.m. every day.
Well, I do that because I don't like working out at night.
Yeah.
And I don't want to come home and have kids there, and
I get that.
Yeah.
Part. Yeah.
So anyway,
You are a strange microwave dinner eating vampire.
no one ever said I
why we
wasn't.
love you.
No one ever said I wasn't strange.
That's true. That's true. Literally, no one has said that.
I kind of enjoy it. To be perfectly honest with you, it makes me happy. To be
You're your
honest
own
with you.
man. You
Yeah.
got your own thing going on, Steve. That's a good thing. I respect that. All right, well, we will leave it there then, folks, as we continue to wrap up towards draft week. We got awesome stuff coming on the website and on the show, so make sure you're coming back regularly to check in on that. And we will see you all next week right here on the Hog Sty. Take care.
Cool.